So are you ready to finally admit that Colorado is going to win the Big 12 this year? Deion Sanders, in his second season as the head coach of this program, has this team poised to make a run for the college football playoffs, because all they got to do is win the weakest conference in college football. Because when you look at the Big 12, the two best teams in this conference right now, Iowa State and BYU, who are still currently undefeated, they're more than likely going to end up having a hiccup somewhere along the road, okay? Iowa State still has to play Texas Tech and Kansas State. BYU still has to play Utah on the road, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. And Colorado, with their last remaining games on the schedule, I love their chances of being able to win out, win this conference, and stamp a spot in the 12-team college football playoffs this year, because they're in a conference where they're going up against teams that don't have good secondary play. They don't have a lot of talent on the defensive line. And the fact that you got Deion Sanders, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, alongside of Travis Hunter, who probably is going to be the 2nd or 3rd overall pick in next year's draft, and he's a Heisman frontrunner at the moment, gives this team such a great advantage. Because if you can't get pressure consistently on Deion Sanders, and you can't slow down this deep and talented group of wide receivers that Colorado has, because they lost a lot of guys to injuries these last couple of weeks, and they were still able to dominate even without Travis Hunter, even without some of their best players on the both sides of the football. They still have shown that they got more than enough depth to be able to win tough games. You didn't see that last year. Last year, Colorado didn't have any depth on the D-line, at receiver. It was just Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter and everybody else. But now, you got a well-rounded football squad this year. Colorado, the haters aren't going to want to admit it, but this team is good enough to win the Big 12 championship. I've been trying to tell you guys this since the start of the offseason, that Colorado was going to be a factor in the Big 12 title picture, because this isn't the SEC, this isn't the Big 10. Hell, the Big 12 this season is nowhere as close to being as good as what the Pac-12 was last year, when you had Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and a bunch of other quality teams. And yeah, you got a lot of teams that only have one loss. BYU and Iowa State look really good, but the gap between Colorado and the rest of the Big 12 is not big. As a matter of fact, there is no gap at all. If anything, Colorado, from a talent standpoint, it's the best team in the Big 12 right now, because there's not a single team in this conference that has a better quarterback in this conference than what Deion Sanders is. And they also don't have the firepower that Colorado possesses on offense. They just smashed UCF, Baylor, and Arizona. And every time they beat a good team, people like to say, oh, well, that team isn't good. Colorado should have beaten them by that margin. Well, if those teams are bad and Colorado is handling them and they're blowing out UCF and they're blowing out Arizona, isn't that a sign that this team has improved under Deion Sanders? You can't say that they're going 4-8 anymore, because they're 5-2. He's already exceeded his win total from last year. Why can't y'all just admit the fact that Colorado is going to win the Big 12 this year? There is no team in this conference that's good enough to stop this team. If Kansas State was to run it back with Colorado, the Bucs would kick their ass, because they don't have a consistent pass rush and they don't have a good enough secondary that can slow down Deion Sanders with all of these studs at wide receiver. Why are people so hesitant to admit that the Buffs aren't playing around anymore? They ain't coming anymore. You heard what Deion Sanders said. They're here, and they're about to kick the door down. They're about to win the Big 12 championship, and they're going to have a spot in the college football playoffs this year. People love to hate on this team. They love to try to downplay Colorado's success, and it's getting to the point where it's just really annoying now. Just accept the fact that Colorado is a good team. They're going to get Miss Peggy to a good bowl game and then some, man. Like, why are people rooting for Deion Sanders in Colorado to fail? Like, all of these media narratives have been overblown. People take one small incident for Colorado and they blow it up to be something bigger than what it is. This team is already better than what the majority of y'all expected them to be. Most of y'all thought that they were going to be a garbage team this year. You thought they were going to be just as bad as what they were last year, and Deion Sanders has already proven otherwise. Just accept the fact that Colorado is going to be your Big 12 champion this year, and they're going to be playing in the college football playoffs. When you got the best quarterback in college football and the best player in college football and Travis Hunter, it gives you a tremendous advantage, because just with those two guys alone, your offense is going to be super consistent, because it's hard when you don't have a reliable pass rush to stop the best quarterback in college football and to stop the best player in college football. Look, Ashton Genty is a phenomenal player. He's going to have the best season that we've ever seen out of a running back since freaking Barry Sanders. But let's not try to make it seem like what Travis Hunter is doing is something that is normal. He's playing nearly every snap on both sides of the football, offense and defense. He's the best wide receiver in the Big 12, and he's the second best cornerback in college football, only second to Will Johnson. He's a top 10 prospect at both of those positions. When you have a team that has these two caliber of players alongside of all of the good supporting cast that is around them, it's really hard for any other team in this conference, that being the Big 12, to match up with this kind of firepower. Arizona, they had a lot of guys banged up on defense. Colorado had injuries and they were still able to overcome them. So in some capacity, Deion Sanders has taken the transfer portal and he's used it the same way that NFL teams utilize free agency. He's treating the portal like the free agency of college football, and that's why Colorado has more depth than a lot of teams in the Big 12. A lot of teams in the Big 12 got really good coaches. Mike Gundy, the head coach, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, he's really good, but they don't have the kind of roster from a talent standpoint that Deion has. The offensive line has improved. The defensive line has improved. The defense in general has improved nearly every single game. They can stop the run. They can get after the quarterback. You saw how they were getting after Noah Fafita. Come on now. Like, this is a good enough team to win the Big 12 conference. This is one of the weakest conferences in all of FBS. I don't know who's worse, the ACC or the Big 12. I would have to say the Big 12. When Colorado wins the Big 12 this year, a lot of y'all haters are going to have to eat crow with all of that crap y'all was talking out of your mouth about Coach Prime, and people don't want to admit it, but they were wrong about Deion Sanders when they wanted to call this experiment. Yeah, it's an experiment gone right. Nobody expected Colorado to be as good as what they've been up to this point this season, other than me, because I had this team going 10-2, winning the Big 12. I got a lot of evidence to back that up. Go check out my TikTok at JT_Sports. Just go through some of our content that we made in the off season. We were really high on Colorado, but everybody wanted to say that we were glazing Deion Sanders. We were overrating this squad. Watch when Colorado wins the Big 12 this year. I can't wait for it to happen.